Obviously there was a three-way trade between Phoenix, Washington, and ourselves that had been agreed upon, and we were very clear about who was in the trade. Contrary reports, it was not Dylan Brooks, and then which put us in a very difficult situation with our players. Individuals from one or both of those teams leaked the deal while we were playing last night. And that forced me to do something I've never done in 30 plus years working this league with 7 teams, is to drag 2 players out of the locker room and tell them they've been traded, and then eventually have to come back and tell them, oh, no, you haven't been traded. So we take our player relations very seriously. We ask a lot of these guys, and we stay and try to communicate with them at all times. We do not want them to know about trades from another party. We want to be the ones that tell them. So again, we were forced to come in at that time and say something. That put us in a very difficult situation. And fortunately, Marshawn and Wayne are pros. And when I explained to them afterwards, they were okay with the situation and we're all moving forward. But what happened last night was unfathomable. I've never experienced this before. And we were very clear about who was in this deal. And Dylan Brooks never was intended to be a part of this, was not from our standpoint, and we made this very clear, it was not Dylan Brooks. And I let Dylan know that after the game, too, that don't believe what you're reading and hearing tonight. You are not a part of this trade, and you're not going to be a part of it.
Well, as I said last night, Griff, when you and I were here breaking this down, you can now, in 2018, get 100 people at 3 in the morning in 40 countries to play Fortnite, but we couldn't get 3 NBA teams on one phone call. Unfortunately, now that you've had some time to sleep on it and we have a deal, how did the team somehow move on with limited egg on the face, considering what happened yesterday?
Well, I think the team that had the greatest exposure in this situation was Washington. And I think Ernie was the one, Ernie Grunfeld and the Wizards, had the most, I'm going to say, on the line maybe. They had the most at stake in terms of getting a deal done quickly. The deal they end up making is not anywhere near as good as what was leaked yesterday that was about to be done, because they don't add the draft picks in the situation. The Suns ending up with Oubre, I think, is a good asset value for Phoenix just because they get optionality. He's 23 years of age. He's a restricted free agent. If they want to take a ride with Kelly and see how the fit works out, they can. And if they want to spin him again elsewhere, they can. So they have optionality in the situation. But I thought what Chris Wallace said was really, really meaningful. 30 years, 7 teams, never seen anything like this. Everyone sort of in the NBA works under the premise that we all have mutually assured destruction. And there's a code really about the way you go about these things. And somebody made an egregious error last night, and we talked about it last night as well.
Yeah, a lot to break down, Brendan. I want to, first, if I can, and we'll get deep into this, take you in the room. As a player, he talked about Marshawn Brooks and Wayne Selden and guys who know that they were attempted to be moved. Now, for me, I don't know what he said, and I'm sure they were very honest. It wouldn't matter what you'd say. I would go home and be on the phone with everyone I knew. These people tried to trade me. They don't want me anymore. Have you ever seen a situation like that, been through anything like that personally or with teammates? How do you handle that?
I've never been in a situation where a trade went through but then didn't go through. I've been in situations where guys' name has been on the block. They've been reading about their names in the paper, and that happens. That's par for the course. It happens every year close to the trade deadline, but I've never been in a situation where it was kind of like this, where a player got traded and they're like, no. We're not doing a trade if we get this player. Like, can you imagine how Marshawn Brooks feels today? Marshawn Brooks has to feel like, first of all, you were willing to let me go. And then Phoenix is like, nah, we're not doing this deal if we get that Brooks. We want the other Brooks. So it's a really tough, delicate situation. This is why you probably need to keep a lot of things close to the vest, keep things in-house. And we're in the information age where a lot of these teams leak a lot of information to a lot of people really, really early. I'm still not sure what the benefit of that is right now, but this deal got leaked way too early, and it's going to have an effect on certain players in this deal.
I want to get to the floor and all of that, but I got one more question, and that is, Griff, sometimes you learn lessons you don't think you need to learn in life or in business. Is there a lesson learned that now can be fixed, either about less communication through text, I mean, do we not have FaceTime? Do you not find a way? I mean, I hate to take it all the way to a dumbed down level. But
How do three teams do a deal on text? Like, how is that even possible?
How do you not? I mean, really, honestly, you would think we're back in the days of like an AOL chat room to find like the difficulty here. Do we learn a lesson as a league from what happened here?
Well, as a league, I don't know about that. There's checks and balances the league has in place that make it so that what happened yesterday really can't happen. At least not within the framework of having the deal be essentially announced as a done deal. Once Woj goes with the story, and he has his own process in place, he's very certain of his side of the story. What happens when you go through a trade process and when you go through setting this up, there's so many different layers and so many different points of contact where somewhere along the way, the confusion on the Brooks gets filtered out before you get to the point where Woj knows the trade. So the fact that we didn't get to that point at all, where physicals were exchanged with the appropriate Brooks's name at the top of the page, because we didn't get that far, you know this deal wasn't really at the finish line. It's just that somebody spoke too soon to Woj. Someone broke the news too soon. And that's something that individual and that team will learn from. But as a league, no, this isn't something they're learning from. And I'm sure as a league and from a league office perspective, they are not happy with what was done last night.
But Griff, let me ask you a question. Why does it seem like there is a rush to leak information to Woj at all times? Or anybody, like, if you're trying to get a deal done, why is there there's a race to see who can get the information out there? Whatever happened to, hey, we're going to do a deal, we're going to keep this in-house. Whatever happened to that type of thought or mentality, what is the benefit? Why is it beneficial to teams to let Woj or anybody else know so quickly?
I don't know the answer to that question. And I think if you're running an organization that's going to stand for something, you don't want to be one of those teams. It's not an accident that San Antonio is able to do the vast majority of what they've done for 21 years under cover of night. It's because it's the way Pop wants it, and everyone is going to act accordingly. There are so many, as I said, there's so many points of contact along the way in a trade discussion that what's happened now is a lot of people want the social currency of being important enough to be in the know. And as an organization, if you don't have all those people moving in the same direction, or in the right direction, quite frankly, then those people are going to be working in their own personal interest and not of the best interest of the franchise. Right. And if you are the person who does this, you are literally keeping business from getting done on the part of the team and doing a great deal to damage the reputation of your franchise. A lot of people don't understand that until they make the mistake.
Let's go to the floor and talk about what it actually all means, right? Let's start with Washington. They've got a number of issues. I mean, we are like a couple of steps away from a show on Bravo kind of issues. We know how good Trevor is in the room, what he does on the floor. How much can he really fix when you look at what ails the team he used to play for?
I don't think Trevor can fix the problem in Washington. I think he's a good piece and he can help this team. And they need a 3-and-D guy. They need a guy that can play defense, catch and shoot, and be a positive impact on the younger guys in that locker room. They had a lot of locker room distractions, and they've been trying to trade them slowly but surely. But as far as the actual deal goes on the court, I don't like trading 23-year-old Kelly Oubre, that's a restricted free agent, this early in the process for a 33-year-old Trevor Ariza. I just really don't like the feel of that. I think maybe you could have possibly waited longer, maybe got more. I don't know, but I just really don't love that for the Washington Wizards because I was a big Kelly Oubre fan. He had an energy and a confidence about himself that you could see on the court. And sometimes he just played with a chip on his shoulder. Something I want to see a little bit more from Otto Porter. Otto Porter sometimes seems like he lets the game come to him. Kelly Oubre is willing to try to take the game to the other team. And so I think Washington's going to miss that.
Which is why you mentioned Porter. Ironic, I hear you asking for 3-and-D, and I believe they spent $100 million on it somewhere. Griff, when you look at the Wizards, timing of the deal, take me through what you like, what you question, and then to B. Wood's point, the fact that Oubre, it's not really just getting Ariza, it's giving up Kelly as well.
Well, the deal that was rumored to be getting done last night included a couple second-round picks going the direction of Washington. And Washington had the most to lose in terms of the volatility in their locker room. To have Oubre and Austin Rivers have to come back in that locker room, it would have been too much for that organization to get past. I really believe that it could have crippled the franchise. So I understand why Ernie acted in the way he did. I agree with you. I don't like, in general terms, moving a 23-year-old with optionality for a 33-year-old who you have no connection to moving forward. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that the Wizards are awfully pot committed to the nucleus that they've created. So in a way, the only thing they could do to give the group that they can't change a chance is to put the right pieces in that locker room from a human perspective and hope that Trevor can return to form in terms of what he does on the floor, because you know unequivocally, culturally, he's going to be about the right things. And you also can assume that culturally, bringing Kelly and Austin back into that locker room would have been of epic proportions, a bad decision.
Well, you talk about bad decisions, epic proportions, debacles. Best way to cleanse our palate, take a trip to Mexico. So therefore, we'll do that. Might not have cleansed the palate of the Jazz fans. Jazz and Magic getting at it. The Spider in attendance. Jazz offense